Lyria stood in the middle of the auction platform. Her skin glowed with a soft, opalescent light that shifted between blue and silver as the bright lights of the marketplace hit her body. She was very small, barely 5 feet tall, and her frame was thin and delicate. Her most striking feature was that she had no eyes. Instead, where eyes should be, there was only smooth skin. But Lyria was not blind in the way humans understood blindness. She could see perfectly through echolocation and thermal sensing. She could feel the heat from every living thing around her and hear the world through sound waves that bounced back from objects. But right now, all of Lyria's senses screamed danger. The auction platform was packed with buyers from different alien species. The air was thick with noise and smell. Lyria could hear the conversations and see the crowd through her echolocation, which painted pictures of tall shapes and moving forms all around her. She could feel the body heat of dozens of beings. The marketplace of Carrick Station was not a place for the gentle. It was a place where things were bought and sold, where nothing was sacred, and where money talked louder than anything else. Lyria's small hands trembled as she stood on the platform. A metal chain was attached to her wrist. The auctioneer, a large Craxian with 6 arms, held the other end of the chain loosely in one hand. He was shouting numbers into a communication device, calling out bids in a language Lyria only partially understood. "Who will start the bidding for this beautiful Valenthian female?" the auctioneer announced. His voice was loud and rough. "She is young, healthy and trained. She knows how to serve. She is obedient and quiet. Perfect for those looking for a compliant companion or worker. Starting bid is 500 credits. Lyria felt her heart racing. She could feel the eyes of buyers looking at her, even though she could not see their faces. She knew what this meant. Her husband, Tharum, had brought her here to sell her. He had debts. He had lost money in gambling and bad business deals. And rather than work to pay his debts like an honorable Valenthian male should, he had decided to sell her. It was legal in their culture. Females were considered property, something a male could own and trade just like anything else. Her father had sold her to Tharum when she was young. That was normal. That was how her people did things. But knowing it was legal did not make it hurt less. 200 credits! A voice called out from the crowd. It was a large, scary-looking alien with thick green skin and teeth that stuck out of his mouth. 300! Another voice shouted. The bidding continued. Numbers were called out. Lyria tried not to think about what would happen to her after this auction ended. Would she be taken to work in a factory? Would she be sold to someone cruel? Would she be hurt? Then a new voice called out from the back of the platform. It was different from the others. The voice was calm and clear and did not sound angry or desperate. 550 credits. Lyria could feel a new heat signature entering the auction area. A human. She could tell by the thermal pattern of the body. Humans had a very specific body temperature that she recognized. She had only seen a few humans in her life, and they had always scared her. Humans were known to be unpredictable. They were known to be wild and rough. Many Valenthians feared humans. The bidding paused for a moment. 600 credits! The green alien shouted, not wanting to lose. 700, the human said calmly, without any emotion in his voice. The crowd seemed excited now. A human bidding against other species was unusual. It was not common for humans to participate in auctions like this. 750! The green alien yelled. 1,000 credits, the human said. His voice was still calm, still patient, like he was not racing against anyone or worried about the price at all. The green alien made a growling sound and fell silent. The other bidders also gave up. It seemed no one wanted to spend that much money. The auctioneer's 6 arms all waved at once, a gesture of completion. "Sold!" he shouted. "To the human bidder, 1,000 credits for the Valenthian female." The transaction was complete. Lyria now belonged to a human whose name she did not know, and whose face she could not see clearly through her echolocation at this distance. A human had bought her. This terrified her more than anything else that had happened all day. The chain was removed from her wrist, but a new one was attached. The human walked toward the platform slowly, moving with a gentle pace. Through her echolocation, Lyria could see that he was tall, perhaps 6 feet or more. He was broader than she was, with wider shoulders, but as he got closer, she noticed something strange about his movements. He was not walking in a threatening way. His steps were careful, and his energy felt calm. When he reached her, the human did not grab her or pull her chain aggressively. Instead, he simply held out his hand and spoke in a soft voice. "Hello, Lyria. My name is Quan Ho. I am a trader from Earth. I know you are scared right now, but I promise you that you are safe." Lyria could feel his body heat close to hers now. She could sense his heart rate, which was normal and steady, not racing with excitement or anger. She could hear his breathing, which was slow and controlled, but she did not understand why he was being kind. Why would he buy her if he was going to be kind to her? "Come," Quan Ho said, still in that soft voice. "My ship is waiting. We will go there, and you can have some rest. You have had a long day." He led her away from the auction platform gently, careful not to pull too hard on the chain. Lyria followed because she had no choice. But as they walked through the marketplace toward his ship, something in Quan Ho's calm energy made her fear calm down just a little bit. Just enough to breathe, just enough to survive another moment. She did not know yet that her entire life was about to change. She did not know that this human who was supposed to terrify her would become the most important person in her world. But as they walked together into the unknown, Lyria took a small breath and let Quan Ho lead her forward. Quan Ho's ship was not what Lyria expected. She had imagined a cold metal box filled with machines and weapons. Instead, when they entered through the main door, she sensed a space that was warm and alive. The air was clean. Soft lights glowed from the walls. The ship hummed with a gentle energy that did not feel hostile or dangerous. Quan Ho led her through the corridors carefully, moving slowly so she could follow. Her echolocation bounced off the walls, showing her a ship that was organized and well-maintained. It was small, designed to be run by one person, and every part had a purpose. Nothing was wasted or messy. "This is where you will stay," Quan Ho said, opening a door to a simple but comfortable room. The space had a bed, a small table, and a window that looked out at the stars. There was a bathroom attached, clean and ready to use. Quan Ho set down a bag of clothing and toiletries. "If you need anything, there is a communication button on the wall. You can press it any time, day or night, and I will help you. There is fresh water and food in the storage container. Help yourself whenever you are hungry. I will be in the bridge of the ship, flying us away from this place." Lyria did not respond. She stood in the middle of the room, confused. Tharom had never given her a room of her own. He had made her sleep on a mat in the corner of his house, and he had expected her to be grateful for even that. He had never asked her what she needed. He had never left food out for her and told her to eat whenever she wanted. "I will leave you to rest," Quan Ho continued. "We will not be traveling far today. Tomorrow, if you feel well enough, we can talk more, but there is no pressure. Take the time you need." He left the room quietly and closed the door behind him. Lyria stood alone in the silence. She could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines starting up. She could feel the gentle movement as the ship began to move away from Carrick Station. She was leaving everything she knew behind, traveling to an unknown future with a strange human who had bought her, but was treating her with a kindness she did not understand. Lyria sat down on the bed. It was soft and comfortable. She lay down and pulled a blanket over her body. For the first time in her life, she had a safe place that was all hers. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying all at the same time. Days passed. Quan Ho left meals outside her door every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all prepared with care. Lyria watched his patterns through her echolocation, learning his routine. He would wake early, eat a small meal, then spend hours in the bridge controlling the ship. Sometimes he would come to her door and sit outside, just sitting quietly. He never forced her to come out. He never demanded anything. He simply sat there, present and calm. On the 5th day, Lyria decided to leave her room. She moved through the corridors of the ship slowly, using her echolocation to guide her. She noticed something surprising. The furniture had been rearranged. The pathways through the ship had been cleared and widened. There were no obstacles in her way. Quan Ho had made the space easier for her to navigate, even though she had never asked him to do this. This realization made her heart feel warm in a way she had never experienced before. She found Quan Ho in the common area of the ship, sitting with a cup of hot tea. He was looking out at the stars through a large window. When he sensed her presence, he did not jump up or rush toward her. He simply turned and smiled. "Hello, Lyria," he said softly. "I am so glad you came out. I have been making some tea. Would you like to join me?" Lyria did not know what to say, so she said nothing. She sat down across from him, keeping some distance between them. Quan Ho slid a cup of tea toward her. The steam rose from it, and she could smell the warmth. It smelled like something from her home, like the thermal flowers that grew in the caves where her people lived. "This tea is made from plants that grow on several worlds," Quan Ho explained. "I thought you might enjoy it. It is called Valenthian Blend because it reminds many Valenthians of home." How did he know this? How did he know what would remind her of home? They sat together in silence for a long time, drinking tea and looking at the stars. Quan Ho did not ask her questions. He did not try to force her to talk. He simply sat beside her, and the silence felt comfortable instead of lonely. Finally, after what felt like hours, Lyria spoke. Her voice was very small and quiet. "Why did you buy me?" Quan Ho did not answer immediately. He took a sip of his tea and looked at the stars for a long moment before responding. "I came to Carrick Station to learn about different cultures," he said. "I am a scholar as well as a trader. I like to understand how different species live and think. When I learned about the Valenthian practice of selling females as property, something inside me became angry. I did not think it was right. So I decided to do something about it." "But that does not make sense," Lyria said, still confused. "If you did not think it was right, why did you participate in it? Why did you buy me?" Quan Ho looked at her then, turning his head so his eyes could meet where her eyes should be. "Because I realized that someone was going to buy you today," he explained. "And I wanted to make sure that someone was me. I wanted to make sure you were safe." Lyria did not know what to do with this information. She had never met anyone who would do something like this. She had never met anyone who cared about a stranger, someone they did not even know, enough to spend money to protect them. Over the following weeks, they talked more and more. Quan Ho told Lyria stories about Earth, about forests and oceans and mountains. He described colors that Lyria had never seen but could understand through his words. He played sounds for her, the calls of birds, the roar of ocean waves, the whisper of wind through trees. He created models with his hands so she could feel the shapes of landscapes. And Lyria told him about her life. She told him about her family, who had sold her to Therom because they needed money. She told him about Therom, who had never spoken to her with kindness. She told him about the fear and loneliness that had been her constant companions for so long that she could not remember what it felt like to be happy. One day, Quan Ho said something that made Lyria feel different. "Your thoughts matter to me, Lyria," he said. "What you think and what you feel are important. You are not just an object that belongs to someone. You are a person, and you deserve to be treated with respect. Lyria realized in that moment that no one had ever told her this before, and hearing it from Quan Ho made something inside her heart shift and begin to heal. Weeks turned into months as Quan Ho's ship traveled through the vast emptiness of space. The journey was long, but Lyria found that she was no longer afraid of it. Instead, she was learning to love it. The quiet hum of the engines became comforting to her. The gentle rocking of the ship as it moved through space felt like being held by something safe and large and protective. Quan Ho spent his days teaching Lyria things she had never learned before. He taught her about his world, Earth, with all its variety and beauty. He showed her images on screens, describing each one in detail so that Lyria could understand what she was sensing. He taught her about different countries and cultures, different kinds of people who looked different, but all shared the same basic desire to love and be loved. He taught her about music, something that had never existed in her life before. Music, he explained, was organized sound that could make a person feel emotions without words. He played different types for her. He played soft, gentle music that made her feel peaceful. He played happy music that made her want to move. He even played sad music, and when Lyria heard it, she understood sadness in a new way. She realized that sadness was not just pain. It was a valid feeling that people needed to feel sometimes. "Does this music make you sad?" Quan Ho asked her one evening as they listened to a beautiful but melancholy piece. Lyria thought about this carefully. "It makes me feel," she said slowly. "It reminds me of missing something. But it also reminds me that I am alive and that I can feel things. That is good, I think." Quan Ho smiled. "That is a beautiful way to understand it," he said. "Music is like that. It helps us feel all the things that we carry inside ourselves." But the most important thing Quan Ho taught her was choice. Every single day, he would ask her questions that required her to make decisions. "What would you like to eat for breakfast?" he would ask. Lyria would freeze. No one had ever asked her what she wanted to eat. Tharam had given her whatever he decided to give her, and she had been grateful. But now Quan Ho was asking her opinion. He was asking her to decide. I do not know," she would say. "That is okay," Quan Ho would respond gently. "Take your time. Think about what sounds good to you. What do you want your body to have today?" Slowly, Lyria learned to know what she wanted. She discovered that she liked sweet foods in the morning. She learned that she preferred warm drinks to cold ones. She found that she wanted to learn about navigation and how ships worked. She discovered that she was curious about so many things that she had never been allowed to be curious about before. One day, as Quan Ho was teaching her about the star maps and how to plot courses through space, Lyria asked him a question that surprised them both. "Can I try?" she asked. "Can I try to steer the ship?" Quan Ho's expression showed his surprise, but it quickly turned into a smile. "Of course," he said. "Let me show you how." He placed her hands on the controls and guided them gently. She could feel the sensitivity of the instruments, the way the ship responded to even the smallest movement. It was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. But Quan Ho was right there beside her, his hands gentle on hers, showing her what to do. "You are doing wonderfully," he told her. "You have good instincts. I think you could become a very good navigator if you wanted to." "Really?" Lyria asked, hope rising in her voice. "Really," Quan Ho confirmed. "You are capable of so much more than you have ever been allowed to try." Weeks later, Lyria was working in the kitchen area of the ship, preparing dinner. She had become comfortable in this space. She knew where everything was. Her echolocation showed her where the vegetables were, where the cooking equipment was, where the spices and seasonings sat. She had become good at cooking. Quan Ho had taught her, and she found that she enjoyed it. Creating something that would nourish someone and bring them happiness felt important and meaningful. Kwan Ho was sitting at the table reading something on a small electronic device. Lyria was preparing a meal, her hands moving with confidence and grace. And then, something happened that Lyria had never expected to happen. She laughed. It was a small laugh, a quiet sound that came from deep inside her chest. Kwan Ho had made a joke about something he had read, something about the strange names of plants on a distant moon, and it had struck her as funny. The laugh came out before she could stop it. When she realized what she had done, Lyria froze. She had never laughed before, not in her entire life. Joy was not something that had ever been a part of her experience. But now, here in this small ship with this kind human, she had felt joy so strongly that it had burst out of her as laughter. "Did I just make you laugh?" Kwan Ho asked, and his voice was full of wonder. "I think so," Lyria said quietly. Is that bad?" "No," Kwan Ho said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "That is the best thing I have heard in a very long time. Please laugh again if you find something funny. You should do that more often." As the weeks continued, Lyria felt herself changing. She was becoming stronger, both physically and emotionally. Her voice was becoming louder. Her movements were becoming more confident. She was learning to trust her own instincts and her own thoughts. But more than that, she was learning something that had been hidden from her for her entire life. She was learning that she was worthy of kindness, that she deserved to be treated with respect, that her thoughts and feelings mattered, that her life belonged to her, and only to her. One evening, as they sat together looking at the stars, Lyria reached out and placed her hand on top of Kwan Ho's hand. She did not say anything. She did not need to. The gesture said everything. It said thank you. It said I trust you. It said you have changed my life. Kwan Ho turned his hand over so that their fingers intertwined. And in that moment, something shifted between them. Something that neither of them could have predicted when Lyria had first stepped onto that auction platform so long ago. Lyria noticed the changes in Kwan Ho before he noticed them himself. Her senses were more acute than human senses, and she could feel things that others could not feel. She noticed that his heart rate increased when she was near him. She noticed that his breathing changed when she spoke. She noticed that his body temperature rose slightly whenever they were in the same space together. At first, Lyria did not understand what these signs meant. But as time passed and the changes became more pronounced, she began to put the pieces together. She remembered the stories Kwan Ho had told her about love. She remembered the music he had played for her about human relationships. She understood finally what was happening. Kwan Ho was in love with her. The realization filled Lyria with many emotions all at once. She felt scared. She felt confused. She felt something warm and bright inside her chest that she did not have a name for. She wanted to talk to him about it, but she was afraid. What if she was wrong? What if she ruined everything? But Lyria had learned from Kwan Ho that fear should not stop you from doing the right thing. So one evening, when they were sitting together in the common area, she decided to ask him directly. "Kwan Ho," she said, her voice steady but quiet, "are you in love with me?" The silence that followed was very long. Kwan Ho set down the drink he had been holding. He took a slow breath. His heart rate increased dramatically, and his body temperature rose. All of Lyria's senses screamed that he was nervous and vulnerable. Finally, he spoke. "Yes," he said simply. "I am in love with you, Lyria. I have been for some time now. I have been trying very hard not to show it because I did not want to make you uncomfortable. I did not want you to feel like you had to return my feelings because you owe me something. That would be wrong, and I could never do that to you." Lyria listened to these words carefully. She understood what he was saying. He was telling her that he had feelings for her, but he was also telling her that he respected her too much to force her to feel the same way. "Why?" Lyria asked. "Why do you love me? I am just a scared Valenthian who did not know anything about the world. I was sold by my husband. I was worthless in my own culture. Why would you love someone like me?" Quan Ho turned to face her more directly. "Because you are not worthless," he said firmly. "You never were. Your culture taught you to believe that you were, but that was a lie. I love you because you are brave. I love you because you are curious about the world. I love you because you are kind, even after people have treated you badly. I love you because you bring me joy. I love you because you are Lyria, and there is no one else in the entire galaxy like you." Tears began to run down Lyria's face. She did not fully understand why she was crying, but she knew that these were good tears, healing tears. No one had ever said things like this to her before. No one had ever seen her as valuable or worthy or special. "I need time to think," Lyria said after a long moment. "I need to understand my own feelings. Is that okay?" "Of course," Quan Ho said immediately. "I will wait as long as you need. There is no rush. I just wanted you to know the truth." Over the following days, Lyria spent a lot of time alone in her room, or exploring every corner of the ship. She used her echolocation and thermal sensing to revisit every moment she had spent with Quan Ho. She remembered how he had been kind to her when she was terrified. She remembered how he had taught her about the world and about herself. She remembered how he had never forced her to do anything or made her feel like she owed him anything. She thought about what love meant. She thought about the music he had played for her, the songs about humans falling in love with each other. She thought about the way her heart felt different when she was near him. She thought about how safe she felt in his presence, and slowly, she came to a realization. She was in love with him too. The knowledge filled her with a strange kind of courage. She had been afraid her entire life. She had been afraid of being hurt, afraid of being wrong, afraid of being worthless. But her time with Quan Ho had taught her that some things were worth being brave for. Love was worth being brave for. She found him in the bridge of the ship, working on some calculations for their next route. The stars were visible through the large window, shining like jewels in the darkness of space. "Quan Ho," she said, and he turned to face her immediately, his full attention on her face. "I have been thinking," Lyria continued. "I have been thinking about everything you have done for me. I have been thinking about how you have changed my life. I have been thinking about how I feel when I am near you." Quan Ho waited, his body very still, barely breathing. "I am in love with you too," Lyria said. The words came out clear and strong. "I do not know if I am saying this correctly, because I have never said it before, but I know that when I sense your presence, I feel happy. I know that when you are not near me, I miss you. I know that I want to be with you. I know that I choose you." The last word was the most important one. She chose him. Not because she had been sold to him, not because she owed him anything, but because she had made a decision freely and completely to love him. Quan Ho stood up from his seat and moved toward her slowly, giving her time to change her mind if she wanted to. But Lyria did not change her mind. She reached out her hand, and when Quan Ho took it, she felt his hand trembling slightly. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Are you completely sure?" "I have never been more sure of anything in my life," Lyria answered. Quan Ho pulled her close to him, and Lyria felt his heartbeat against her body. It was fast and strong, full of emotion. They stood together like that for a long time, holding each other, letting the moment sink in. Lyria had spent her entire life feeling alone, even when surrounded by people, but now, in this moment, she felt completely and perfectly connected to another being. Outside the window, the stars shone on, witnesses to the moment when a frightened, broken woman and a kind human man had found each other across the vastness of space and discovered that love was real. The news spread through the markets of Carrick Station like wildfire. A Valenthian female, sold by her husband to a human trader, had not only survived, but had apparently stayed with the human of her own free will. Some said she was in love with him. Some said the human had brainwashed her. Some said it was a scandal that would shake the foundations of Valenthian society. When Tharum heard the news, his first reaction was anger. His second reaction was greed. If Lyria was now with a human trader who had money enough to bid 1,000 credits at an auction, then perhaps Tharum could profit from this situation once more. He had sold her once, and he could sell her again. Or better yet, perhaps the human would pay him to take her back. Tharum arrived at the trading port where Quan Ho had docked his ship for repairs. He was a large Valenthian male, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of body that had been shaped by years of aggressive living. His skin had a purple tint to it, which was a sign of age and experience in Valenthian culture. He walked onto Quan Ho's ship without permission, pushing past the security systems with the confidence of someone who did not believe they needed to follow normal rules. Quan Ho was in the bridge when Tharum arrived. He sensed the aggressive energy before he saw the figure standing in his doorway. The human stood up slowly, his body language calm but ready for danger. "Can I help you?" Quan Ho asked politely, even though he already knew who this man was. Lyria had described her husband to him many times, and this matched the description perfectly. "I am Tharum," the large Valenthian said. "I am here to reclaim what is mine. My wife, Lyria, was sold to you illegally. I have documentation that proves she is my property. You will return her to me immediately, or I will take legal action against you." Quan Ho did not respond right away. Instead, he pressed a button on the communication panel in front of him. "Lyria," he said calmly, "can you please come to the bridge?" Within moments, Lyria appeared. Her body immediately went rigid when she sensed Tharum's thermal signature. Her breathing became shallow. For a moment, Quan Ho thought she might retreat back to the safety of the inner ship. But instead, she stood tall and moved to stand beside Quan Ho. He could feel her trembling, but her presence was there, solid and present. "Hello, Tharum," she said, and Quan Ho was amazed at how steady her voice was. "Lyria," Tharum said, and there was something in his voice that sounded almost like concern, though Quan Ho doubted very much that it was genuine concern. "Come here. You have clearly been confused by this human. You are still my wife, and you belong with me. We will not speak of this foolishness again." Lyria did not move toward him. Instead, she spoke words that would have been unthinkable for her just months ago. "No, Tharum. I will not go with you. I do not belong to you. I never belonged to you, and I certainly do not belong to anyone now." Tharum's body went very still. In Valenthian culture, a female directly defying a male was almost unheard of. It was considered not just disrespectful, but dangerous. A breaking of the natural order of things. "You will come with me," Tharum said, stepping toward her. But Quan Ho moved forward, placing himself between Lyria and the large Valenthian. The human was not as large as Tharum, but he was muscular and strong, and there was something in his eyes that suggested he would defend Lyria with his life if necessary. "I think you should leave," Quan Ho said calmly. "You cannot tell me to leave my own wife," Tharum spat. "She is my property. I have legal documents that say so." "No," Lyria said, and she pushed past Quan Ho to stand in front of her former husband. "I am rejecting those documents. I am rejecting the claim you have on me. In Valenthian law, a female can reject her ownership contract if she can prove coercion or if she chooses to claim her own agency. I am claiming it now. I am claiming that you sold me not because you had the right to, but because you did not care about me. You treated me as less than a person, but I am a person, and I choose to claim my own life." The words came from a place deep inside Lyria, a place she did not even know existed until this moment. She was drawing on something that Quan Ho had given her. She was drawing on the knowledge that she was worthy. She was drawing on the strength that comes from love and respect and kindness. Tharam's face darkened with anger. "You cannot claim anything," he said. "You are a female. You have no rights. You have no power." "Maybe not in your world," Lyria said. "But I am not in your world anymore, and I do not want to be." Quan Ho placed a hand on Lyria's shoulder, a gesture of support. This small action seemed to make something inside Tharam snap. He reached out to grab Lyria, but Quan Ho moved faster than anyone expected. He pushed Tharam backward, hard enough to make the larger male stumble and fall. Security alarms began to sound through the ship. "You need to leave," Quan Ho said, his voice no longer calm but firm and commanding. "Right now, or I will have station security remove you by force." Tharam got to his feet, his eyes blazing with fury, but he could see that he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. He looked at Lyria one more time, and the hurt and anger in his expression was almost palpable. "You will regret this," he said, directing his words at Lyria. "You will come crawling back to me when the human grows tired of you." "I do not think so," Lyria said quietly. "I have learned what it feels like to be valued. I have learned what it feels like to be loved. I could never go back to what I was." Tharam turned and walked away, his heavy steps echoing through the corridors of the ship. Station security arrived moments later, and they escorted him off the premises. But even after he was gone, Lyria trembled in the aftermath of the confrontation. Quan Ho held her gently, letting her process what had just happened. She had done something that no Valenthian female in her culture had done in generations. She had claimed her own life. She had rejected the system that had been used to oppress her. "I was so scared," Lyria admitted, her voice small and fragile again. "When I heard him, when I sensed his heat signature, all of the old fear came back." "But you did not let it stop you," Quan Ho said softly. "You were brave even when you were scared. That is the definition of true courage." Lyria realized in that moment that she was no longer the broken, timid creature who had stepped onto that auction platform. She was someone new. She was someone strong. She was someone who could face her fears and overcome them. And she had Quan Ho to thank for that transformation. "What now?" she asked. Quan Ho was quiet for a moment before he answered. "Now," he said, "we decide together. We could travel to places you have never been. We could help other females like you who are trapped in similar situations. We could build something beautiful together. But we decide it together. Your opinion matters, Lyria. It always will." And as Lyria stood there, wrapped in the safety of his arms, she knew that this was the beginning of something new, something better than anything she could have imagined.